Hello and what is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and welcome back to Need for Speed Heat, where instead of taking a look at the full car list, which was released way back in August, I mean, you guys know what the full car list is at this point. We are going to be taking a look at all of these special cars and how you're going to be able to get your hands on them through different types of missions and unlocks, and what you will need to do exactly in order to, like I said, get your hands on the special cars. And I wanted to go ahead and like hover over a couple of different cars as we were going along here through the car list, because there were some that I was like, woo, like I just wanted to see them, you know, in person in the game, and I was just like blown away by so many of these cars, especially the ZR1. That really stood out to me, the C7 ZR1. Now, the main things that we're going to be talking about, though, are the cars from previous Need for Speed games, like, for example, this 350Z from Underground 2, obviously, is going to be the Drift Story missions. This car, the Nismo 370, is going to be from all the decals. The Raptor from Payback is going to be the off-road missions. And then the Race Story missions are the Underground R34. All Drift Zones are the M4 GTS. The Cayman GT4 is going to be for all Flamingos. The Nismo GTR is going to be for all billboards, and the M3 GTR for Most Wanted 05 is for completing the main campaign story. The McLaren 600LT is 3 stars on all speed traps. The Huracan Performante Spider is for 3 stars on all jumps. The 488 Pista is for all collectibles and 3 stars on all activities. And the FX6K Evo is for being a member of a level 50 crew. Now, since we've gotten all of those special cars and how to unlock them out of the way, we can move on to exactly what we were doing in this video, which is buying a BMW M3, an E46 M3, and turning it into our new, well, one of our new race cars. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and flip back through a couple of cars in the car list, hover over a couple that I was particularly interested in, like the M3 GTR and, for example, also the 600LT. Can't wait to drive those. They're all going to be a blast to drive, and you can be absolutely positively sure that I'm going to be working very hard to unlock all of these cars when the game comes out. Now, the SVJ is also on my list of cars that I am just dying to drive in this game. There are very few other games, I think almost no other games, that have had that car, and I'm really pumped to drive it. Now, jumping back through the car list, there were a couple of cars that, you know, that I was like considering, I was thinking about it, you know, because there were quite a few cars that I could afford at this point, since, you know, over $1 million in this account and stuff like that. But I decided to go ahead and, like I said, grab a E46 M3 and see what all they allow you to do with it, because again, the customization is so deep and so crazy and so huge. I had to check this thing out. Also, I did want to show you guys a really cool Easter egg in the game, and that is if you come to this little building over here and you look for the street art, you'll actually see that it is a graffiti of TC 9700. So really cool, the fact that it's here, and the fact that it's actually like there's graffiti of our like not even logo, but like our name in the game. Like it's literally been put into a Need for Speed game. I mean, if you had told me as a kid that my, you know, like my YouTube name basically was gonna end up in a Need for Speed game, I would have literally like flipped out and freaked out. Like, you have no idea. But let's go ahead and get back to the garage and customize our E46. Well, now that we're back in the garage, we can go ahead and get to work on getting this E46 M3 set up the way we want it, which first things first is going to involve lowering it because it sits way too high right now and the stance of the car is just way off. Now, by lowering it down, you do get some natural front camber, but I added a little bit more in the front and then brought it up a little bit more in the rear. On my actual E46 M3 in real life, right now I'm running about negative 2.4 degrees of camber in the front and about 1.8 in the back, which I would probably be running more if it was a dedicated track car, but since it's a street car and a track car kind of on the weekends occasionally, I try to keep it a little bit more relaxed, but, you know, that's not to say I might not turn it up in the future. Now, the exhaust sound for this car, you can really tell there is definitely a difference in, there's just a difference in tone, and it's quite noticeable as you move that slider back and forth. In fact, as you move all of the sliders back and forth, they really did a great job with the sound of this car in particular, and I think that what they did with it really goes to show that they really put a lot of focus on sound this time around, because like everything has a distinct sound, and not only does it have a distinct sound, but you know, every little thing that you do on those sound adjustment sliders really does make an actual difference. So you can really tell that they put some proper time and effort and thought into the sounds. We also went ahead and picked up air suspension for this car, which basically when you turn the car off, it actually enables and will drop the car all the way down to the ground. Looking through at the underglow options, I don't know, nothing really jumped straight out at me, but it's really, really cool that you can actually just buy the underglow now with straight up credits rather than having to, like, you know, get them randomly or in drops or anything like that. Tire smoke, I looked into it and then I was like, I don't really want the color tire smoke. But I did end up going with the blue nitrous because that is a little bit, that is a little bit more interesting to me, because I was like, yeah, you know, as far as tire smoke goes, I was like, I don't know if I want to mess with it, but like when it comes down to, like, you know, nitrous color, I'm like, you know what, you might as well mess around with it a little bit, you might as well have a little bit of fun with it. So you can do a sort of M3 GTR kit on this car if you really want to. However, I decided to go ahead and do the Rocket Bunny kit because the Rocket Bunny kit on these cars does look really, really, really good, and in my opinion is one of the best looking kits for the E46. Now, if you are actually doing a proper M3 GTR, then by all means run the M3 GTR kit. There's absolutely no question about it in my mind. That's by far the best option if that's what you're going for. But you know, if you're going for a really cool street car, the Rocket Bunny kit really does, or the Pandem kit, sorry, the Pandem kit really does stand out as an awesome option in my book. So I really do like the yellow headlights on these cars. I think the yellow headlights look great. I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that is more than prepped and ready to debate me on that, but I think it's one of those things where it's one of those things where I know not everybody's gonna like it, but I almost don't care because I like it that much. You know what I mean? So again, you can actually put the M3 GTR bumper or the M3 CSL bumper, which on the car, which I decided to go with the M3 CSL bumper because I was like, yeah, I mean, I could do a GTR replica, but I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different because I know that like a lot of people would end up doing a GTR replica, but I did also want to make sure that I showed you guys the GTR parts and that you guys knew that you were able to put GTR parts on the regular E46 M3 because normally you wouldn't expect to be able to do that, right? You would expect that the M3 GTR parts would all be locked off to the M3 GTR itself. However, they're not all locked off. If you want to do certain specific GTR parts, you can throw them on this car. Now, there was a couple of different, you know, tint levels for the taillights, as there is on just about any car in this game. I decided to also redo the plate because on certain cars that I feel kind of a little bit more invested in, I will change the plate. Now, this car does have quite a selection of rear wings. I mean, it's pretty freaking crazy. Now, I decided to go ahead and throw the CSL trunk on the car as well, but like, dude, the wing selection is absolutely mental. It's an absolutely mental selection. Now, there's the BMW GTR wing along with the APR wings, the Big Country Labs wings, which there are a lot, and then the M2 motoring wing as well, which is kind of it's basically like almost like a jungle gym that hangs off the back of the car. I mean, you could literally do pull-ups on that center support beam. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous how big that wing is and how far back off the car it hangs. I mean, it's just the distance that hangs off of the car is just like so wild to me. Like, I don't know, it's absolutely insane. Now, with that being said, though, I kind of wanted to go for a little bit of a cleaner look, and normally I would just throw the craziest wing I could at the car, but I also realized that that's kind of what I did with the E30, and I was like, I kind of want to be a little bit different from the E30, he says as he puts almost the same BBSs on the car. And, you know, with that being said, though, they look really good. And I know I say with that being said too much, but you know what? I mean, I almost actually left the stock wheels on the car, but then I was like, like, they look cool. But at the same time, I know that a lot of people would basically, like, lose their minds if I left the stock wheels on the car. They'd be like, oh my god, you left the stock wheels, you've committed a cardinal sin. And basically I was like, you know what, I'll find something that looks a little bit better than the stock wheels. Now, the tire selections for this car were kind of all over the place. I mean, you could just about do whatever you want. Like, literally, you could just about do whatever you want. I mean, the amount of customization that the E46 M3 has in this game is just, it's insane. It's like dumb levels of customization. Like, levels of customization that normally you wouldn't even fathom, like, from any other game or any other place or anything. It's just so many options. I mean, and they really do throw so many options at you that, like, it's almost just that hard to choose, because you don't know what you want. You're just like, okay, well, I'm gonna need to have like 2 or 3 of these because I can't decide on what I want. At least that was my problem when I was going through and building this car. And I think at the end of the day, I ended up with a result that I really, really liked. But I'm still going to need multiple, because there were so many things that I wanted to do to it that I'm like, man, I'm going to need a, like, clean street car version, I'm going to need a grip car version, and I'm going to need a drift car version. Now, when it came time to mess around with the colors, I had a couple of different ideas, and I wasn't really sure what to go with at the time. So going through and messing with the colors was a little bit tricky for me, because I didn't want to do, like, everything color shift, right? Because everybody does everything in color shift. Like, it really is, it's a problem. Everybody does everything in color shift. So I was like, do I go down that route and do I do something like super dramatic in terms of color shift, or do I try to do something just a little bit more relaxed? And I decided to go with something a little bit more on the relaxed side, but something that I thought still looked pretty good. And so I ended up with a bit of like a satin blue, and it's something that I would like to put on a car in real life at some point. I don't know. I dig the color, and I think it's something that's definitely, like, it's definitely a cool look. And then when it came time to paint the wheels, I started kind of going through everything, and I was like, you know, these would probably end up looking better in terms of, like, a darker color. And so I ended up just dialing the color back and pretty much bringing the brightness all the way down, and it looked okay. And then I was like, I'm gonna need to mess with that before I'm a fan of it. But it looked okay, but like, I was never fully satisfied with it. I wanted to try to match it to the body color and then do the outer lip of the wheel in black. And let me know what you guys think of that in the comment section below. I mean, I don't know. I liked it at the time, and then afterwards I was like, that seems a little bit overdone. So I don't know. Like I said, let me know in the comment section below what you think, and I will, you know, kind of be reading over everything and letting you guys know what my thoughts end up being on that car. Now, as far as engine swaps go, you could do just about whatever you want. Like, literally, you could do just about whatever you want on this car, and you've got a lot of different options. Like, you could swap a 1.3 liter rotary engine into it. You also have the options of a 3.2 liter inline 6, a 4 liter V8, and then the options list just keeps going and going and going to, like, down into, like, you know, crazy territory. But again, the engine swap options are really, really interesting because you can understand what engines, like, inspired that stuff. But, like you can understand which engines inspired these engines. But at the end of the day, like, you know that they couldn't really end up naming them. So it's kind of one of those things where you're like, I know what that is, but I know you couldn't name it, but, like, I still know what that is. So at the end of the day, it's, like, it's really cool to go through and see all these engine swap options because the engine swaps are not something that have really been all that common in Need for Speed. They've really not been done before, not been touched on, at least not in a, like, not in such a major way. And so at the end of the day, I'm really, really, really happy that they're here. And as you can see, a lot of them are locked off due to rep level, of course, but it's definitely a good incentive to really work at, like, really work hard to unlock that stuff later on down the road. So if you guys enjoyed this build of this E46 M3 in Need for Speed Heat, then make sure you hit that like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more. We've got tons more gameplay coming very, 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 very soon. And I will see you guys next time. Talk to y'all later, and I hope you guys enjoyed.